Welcome, friend. I am so glad that you stopped by. Isn't hospitality a beautiful thing? Well, at least beautiful in theory, right? Because after all, it does take time, it takes energy, and it takes preparation. And honestly, just the thought of hospitality can stir up a lot of anxiety in most of us. There was a time when I didn't enjoy hospitality. I spent so much time preparing, so much energy making everything perfect. The house had to be perfect. I had to be perfect. The kids had to be perfect. The food had to be perfect. And by the time the guests arrived, I was so stressed out and so exhausted that I didn't enjoy my company. Suddenly, somewhere along the way of preparing this hospitality, what God meant as a gift suddenly became a burden. But what if hospitality isn't about impressing anyone? What if hospitality wasn't about being perfect, having the perfect home, the perfect menu, the perfect family? What if hospitality could be this gentle healing rhythm, something that was simple, sustainable, and filled with God's peace? In this Peaceful Home video, we're going to talk about how to create a home of healing and hospitality without performing, without perfection, and without losing your peace. Let's begin. Come on in, have a seat. Because the first thing I want to teach you about is healing hospitality begins with your posture, not your decor. When people come into your home, they really don't care what your house looks like. In fact, all they really want is your heart. They want to be welcomed. So release the idea of performing, release the idea of perfection, and just have an open heart to welcome. My friend who taught me how to have a peaceful home was excellent at this. From the moment I came to her front door, she had a way of welcoming me and greeting me that made me feel so treasured and loved. I couldn't wait to go and spend time with her in her home. And so start there. Start with a posture of your heart, a welcoming posture that lets your guests know that they are loved, they are treasured, they are welcomed, and you are looking forward to spending time with them. You also want to make sure you set the atmosphere for hospitality. Again, my friend who showed me how to peaceful home was amazing at this. She would dim the lights. She would have instrumental music playing in the background or worship music. She would also light candles. I know not everyone is a fan of candles, but if you can find some good fragrance-free or toxic-free candles, feel free to burn them in your home. It just sets the atmosphere. And I remember from the moment I walked into her home and I settled in her living room or her kitchen, oh my gosh, it was just so peaceful and so restful. To some degree, it was almost like stepping into a spa. But it was just that warming, welcoming atmosphere of just comfort and peace, and it just opened up the door for great conversation. As I said, begin your hospitality with a warm greeting at the door. This sets the tone for the whole visit. And again, my friend was amazing at this. From the moment she opened that door, she made me feel so welcomed and so loved. And she would invite me in and we would settle in. And then she would just listen. She was amazing at just listening to my heart. And she would ask questions and listen without rushing me, listen without interrupting. And this made me feel very special. It made me feel seen and heard and known. Especially in that season, I was growing in my relationship with the Lord, and I had a lot of questions. There was a lot of things that were happening that I didn't understand. And she offered that listening ear and that wonderful godly advice. And it was so comforting and so helpful to be able to share my heart with someone who understood, someone who was walking the road a few steps ahead of me, and who could help me understand what God was doing in my life. So in your home of healing and hospitality, always make sure that your guests, from the moment they arrive, that they feel seen, they feel known, and they feel loved. Practice simple, doable hospitality. Just keep it simple and make it fun. Do what brings you joy. One of the things that I like to do is I like to set a pretty table. And so I take the time to do that not because I'm trying to be perfect or because I'm trying to impress my guest, but because it brings me joy. Start simple. Invite one person over for coffee or a very simple light meal or go for a walk. Don't wait for the perfect conditions. Hospitality grows through practice. The more you do it, the more comfortable it will become. Simply let your home be a place where people can encounter God's love through His presence. They can have that time of fellowship and connection with you, that time of encouragement. So remember, this is not about perfection. This is not about performance. This is not about impressing anyone. We just want to keep it simple, keep it fun, keep it practical and doable. And we will maintain our peace in the process. Something that I do before guests arrive, whether I'm hosting one person for coffee or lunch, or I'm having a small group over, is I always pray over my home before my guests arrive. I always ask for an increase of the Holy Spirit. I pray for an increase of His peace and His presence to rest in my home. I pray for those who are going to be coming into my home that they would become very aware of God's peace and presence. I want to invite the Holy Spirit to help me because I think too often we try to do these things in the flesh. And I think this is why we can struggle with our hospitality because we're not inviting God to help us in our hospitality efforts. You know, sometimes we carry a lot of burden, and I think we try too hard. But if we open ourselves up to the ministry of the Holy Spirit in us and through us, friend, we can minister in ways that we don't even realize we're ministering, especially when we see our friend tearing up. Have you ever been in conversation with someone and they just seem to start getting teary-eyed or choked up? It's because the Holy Spirit is speaking to them, ministering to them, touching a part of their heart that maybe is a little wounded right now. So always make sure you're inviting the Holy Spirit into your space and asking for His help. Ask Him to help you to turn your home into a haven, a place of healing and hospitality for all who enter there. Still feeling overwhelmed by the thought of hospitality? Then start small. Peace grows in simplicity. So choose one room to declutter this week, not the whole house, and allow that to be your meeting space. Create a daily 5-minute reset routine to keep that room clutter-free. Prepare a hospitality basket with tea and mugs and napkins and a candle for easy, spontaneous hosting. And as I said, practice simple, doable hospitality. Start with inviting one person over this month. Start with someone who needs encouragement. Then have them over for coffee, tea, a light meal, or just go for that walk. Friend, I hope you enjoyed our time of hospitality. I so enjoyed having you in my home. Remember, hospitality begins not with your decor, but with your heart. Start with a posture, a welcoming posture, inviting people into your home. And then when they come in your home, remember to welcome them at the door. That's where the atmosphere begins, is the moment they come into your presence, the way you welcome them into your home. Make them feel loved and cherished and excited that they are there. And then invite them into the atmosphere that you have already set, with the dim lighting or with the music, and the way that you have already prayed and invited the presence of God and the peace of God into your home. And then help them to settle in. Maybe offer them a beverage or just a light meal. Keep it simple. Remember, simple, doable hospitality. This doesn't have to be hard. This doesn't have to be challenging or time consuming. Be spontaneous in offering hospitality. Remember, as I said in those simple little tips, that maybe you can have some tea or a mug or maybe a warm blanket handy for the moment that your guests settle in. And then as you connect with her, as you share, allow her to be seen and heard. Listen to how she shares. Ask her prompting questions. and allow her to speak without feeling rushed or interrupted. Allow her to know that you care about her, and then offer her encouragement through the power of the Holy Spirit, who you have already invited to help you in this time of hospitality. Hospitality doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be a time-consuming process. It doesn't have to be about performance or perfection. It's simply about opening your heart and opening your home, welcoming God's peace and presence, and welcoming your friends and even your family into that beautiful space that you have created. Friend, this is not about impressing anybody. Just simply open your heart and your home. Allow your home, create that atmosphere, and allow your home to be a place of healing and hospitality where your friends can come and they can connect with you, they can grow in love with you, and they can experience God's peace and presence and find healing and rest for their soul. In our next video, we are going to talk about how to welcome God's presence in simple, powerful ways. I'll see you then.